Hey, Howard Jacobson here. Welcome to today's Plant Yourself podcast. A quick reminder, this podcast is free for everyone and supported by patrons. So if you would like to find out about becoming a patron of the show and helping us out, helping defray the cost, helping to spread the message, you can do so at plantyourself.com/gift. Thanks so much and enjoy today's episode. Hey, Howard Jacobson here with another COVID-19 episode of the Plant Yourself podcast. Today is, 391, and it's day 12 of the South African lockdown. And we're doing okay. We still haven't heard anything from the State Department definitive about flights out. I saw a newspaper article yesterday that Britain has now chartered a bunch of flights, I think 7 flights, either from Cape Town or Johannesburg, to get all of their people home. And there's a website that people can go to, British citizens can go to get on that list. And still nothing from the Americans. So we waited out another day here in what really is turning into a very lovely fall. We went out shopping yesterday. We got some small, dark red or black grapes, got another head of garlic, and what else? Some apples that back home I would probably have composted because they're pretty mealy, but here fruit is kind of scarce, so my taste buds have adapted to mealy apples, not so sweet. Just like my taste buds adapted when I adopted a whole food plant-based diet. And after a few weeks, things that had been cardboard bland were now delicious. So we adapt. And, the other reason we're doing okay is, frankly, people have been really wonderfully generous. So I have sort of 3 ways in which I'm asking for funding, for money, while we're here on this extended lockdown and my business is locked down in the States. One is just I've announced a tip jar, and people have been stepping up and making patronage pledges on a monthly basis or just one-times to help me get through. And a lot of them are saying, hey, this is, don't thank me publicly. Let this just be anonymous. And because of all that generosity, we're doing okay. We're keeping our heads above water here, even as the days turn into weeks. We're almost coming up on a month now since we left the United States. So I really want to appreciate the generosity of all the folks who have put a tip in the tip jar. And I guess that's what I want to talk about today is generosity, because I'm seeing and hearing about all sorts of generous actions, generous impulses, generous policies, and it's at a time when, we are in a global human crisis. And so to see these stories, to see companies turning over their expert manufacturing brains to speeding up masks, or JetBlue delivering healthcare workers wherever they're needed. Certainly companies. We can certainly get into this sort of do-gooder porn where we have real problems. Like people don't have health insurance, and then someone steps up and pays for an operation. And we can get so caught up in the generous act that we forget to be outraged at a situation in which the generous act is the only way that that justice can be done. But, this epidemic, as far as we know, is not caused by humans. It's ravaging everyone. And so when I see generous impulses that I don't directly see tied to someone's bottom line, I applaud. And we see it not just with big corporations, we see it with governments, we see it with states. So I think California doesn't need the ventilators now, so they sent a bunch of them to New York State. And certainly individuals are doing really wonderful things for each other. It reminds me a little bit of 9/11. I was in Manhattan on that Tuesday, and it was awful. It was terrible, and I walked. All the public transportation was shut down. I was down at I think Park and 43rd. We were looking out the window at the Twin Towers burning, and then we saw one collapse, and I heard all the sirens, and then I tried to walk uptown to my sister's on 96th, and all through the city, all you could see was people helping each other, comforting each other, soothing each other. The stores were open, just giving things away if people needed it. People needed water, a place to sit. We know that collective trauma and tragedy can bring out the worst in people and can also bring out the best in us. And I've heard a lot of commentators talking about this coronavirus transition, where we get to choose what kind of world we want to live in and who we want to be as we turn the corner. Do we want to go back to the way things were, or do we want to live from a more generous, heartfelt place? So, talk about generosity. And I guess when I first started thinking about it, like my definition was, well, I've got more than enough so I can share. And so generosity felt to me like an overflowing. But that immediately brought up a paradox, which is, in general, in studies, poor people tend to be more generous than rich people in terms of the percentage of their net worth that they give away to other people. There have been really interesting studies about people crossing the street and cars either honking or trying to get them to go faster. And the more expensive the car, the less empathy that the driver has, and the more they just want to get that person out of their way so they can keep going. And interestingly, it's almost like when we feel pinched ourselves, when we come to a place of peace about it, I think we become more generous. The more we feel pinched, the more we give. And I think there is a wonderful psychological reason for that, which is that when you are giving to someone else, you can't feel poor yourself. Doing an act of either charity, of kindness, of a gift, of generosity, signals to yourself that you have abundance, that you have more than enough so you can share, that in some ways you are overflowing. And when we come from a place of abundance, from overflowing, I think our brains interact with the world in a different way. Carolyn Webb talks about in her book, How to Have a Good Day, the discover, defend axis. So when we're feeling put upon, when we're feeling a lack, a scarcity, then our brains become defensive, and we simply don't notice stuff that we would notice, opportunities, things to discover, things that can actually make our lives better. I'm blanking on the researcher's name, but there's a researcher who studies luck in human life. And he does it, one of the experiments is to bring a bunch of people into a lab setting and give them a questionnaire to determine whether they feel like they're a lucky person or not. And so let's say for the sake of ease, we divide the group into two. One group says, yes, I'm lucky. The other group says, no, I'm not lucky. Then he gives them a task like a section of newspaper and asks them to count the number of photos. And if they get it right, they'll get paid. And the quicker they do it, the more they'll get paid. And on the second page, in a box, in big letters, it says there are 43 photos in this section of newspaper. You don't have to count them, just tell the researcher. And the people who considered themselves lucky saw that much more than the people who didn't. So for them, luck was a matter of looking for opportunities, looking for things that were in the environment. It wasn't like they were actually luckier. It wasn't like they got the newspaper that had this call-out box and the other people didn't. Luck was a matter of their relationship with their environment, which was mediated by their interpretation of their own status. Yeah, I'm a lucky person. Yeah, things might be hard right now, but I have something to give. All right, so the first thing that I did after I started freaking out about being stuck in Africa, paying vacation money as well as a mortgage at home and not being able to do any of my other work, my first thought was, oh my God, what am I going to do? My calm down thought after going for a run and meditating was, there's a lot of people in a lot worse situation than I am. Maybe if I start podcasting every day, it'll help some people. So actually this podcast going from weekly to daily has been an impulse of generosity. It really took me a few days to even think about, hey, I could mention the tip jar. And then people who are, feeling abundant themselves, feeling like they have something to gift me in return, can do so. But, if this had been like a calculated effort, how am I going to make some cash while I'm here? I don't think it would have worked. I don't think it would have gotten the response that this, an honest generosity has. And, it's nice that I've backed it up with 7 years of free podcasts without taking advertising, without really promoting much of our own stuff. I'll mention, a new Well-Start Health cohort or a new book that Josh and I did, or I'll mention the retreats and things like that. But essentially, this has been a labor of love for me, doing this podcast and producing material to help people become healthier and happier. And in my moment of need, people responded. It was almost like that my kids will see, I'll say, hey, I got another tip jar donation yesterday. And they're shaking their heads like, wow, people really like you. It's kind of hard for adult kids necessarily to see their parents as someone with good qualities. But they're amazed. And I am delighted. It's almost like these 7 years have supersaturated a solution. And now in my hour of need, it's coming full circle. And I don't say that to in any way undermine the fact that people are being incredibly generous with me. And so I can only imagine, the people who still have jobs, who are not underemployed or unemployed, are grateful, and they are leveraging that gratitude in ways that help me, and I think also help them. Right? So, there's definitely benefits to being generous. And we talked about the one where if you're generous, you're much more likely to live and operate on the discover end of the discover-defend axis, and therefore you will stumble upon resources and opportunities that if you were just in defend mode, just feeling really scared and tight, you probably would ignore, would miss, or would evaluate as too risky to even take a chance. But also, being generous, allows you to feel connected to others, as long as it's in the form of sort of an honest gift with no expectation. So there have been people who've bought the product I made, the guided relaxation exercises for the homebound and stressed out, and I made that pay what you can, because I wanted everyone who needed it to be able to have it. And so most people have gotten it for $0, which makes me very happy, because I'm telling myself these are people who would not be able to afford it. Things are really tight for them right now, as they are for many of us. And so if it's a good product and it helps them, then I am privileged to be able to participate in that, right? It feels really good. I feel like I'm really connected to the people who are listening to this product, who are getting helped by it. And some of them are emailing me and saying thanks, and most are not. And that's still fine. Because when I record an audio or relaxation exercise, I'm thinking about you. I'm thinking about the person who needs it, because I'm thinking about myself, because I need it. All right, so we can feel connected, and when it is an honest gift and there's no quid pro quo, and especially the people who are requesting to be anonymous are not doing this for any sort of public recognition, there is just helping. It's like the barrier, the division has been broken down between the helper and the helpee, between the person who is doing the helping and the person who is the recipient. And it feels natural rather than a sacrifice. Right? It feels like this is the default way to be, rather than something grudging or something that I have to worry about. So me doing the podcast, I mean, it's basically an hour out of my day for everything, including the recording, the uploading, the producing, writing everything out, and promoting it on all the social media, and then responding to comments and checking comments and all that. It feels like a natural thing for me to be doing. And the places where I have been generous here, helping out other people, helping neighbors, I volunteer at an online free counseling site to answer questions for people who are struggling. Actually, being generous from my perspective is kind of the most selfish thing I'm doing, because it feels really good to take my focus off myself and my problems and my family's problems. And at the same time now, I'm a recipient of generosity, of financial generosity. So I have plenty of ideas, I have plenty of kindness inside me, but no funds. And so to be a recipient of generosity means officially I get the resource and I can actually use it in useful ways. There's still waiting to hear what my problems are going to be. Last I heard, it was 1,500 tickets, which is that double pay for membership, like no longer exists. But also feel connected to people who are being generous, and also feeling humble. Like, this is a little bit of a hard thing for me to do, to admit that I need help, and to be able to do it, to sit with that feeling, and not let it diminish me, and not that feeling, I am the lower one, and I need to supplicate to receive something. No, like, yeah, there is that. There's definitely part of my ego that is appalled, talking about the jar every day. But there's another part of me that, again, like, there's no helper or helpee, there's just a flow. And if I want other people to accept my generosity, then I have to model that myself. And of course, there's many ways to be generous without, beyond money. Of course, there's time, there's quality of energy and attention you give to people, there's sharing creativity. Here in lockdown, creativity in my family is a very valuable commodity. When someone comes up with occasions, we can do videos play the same. We were at the shop and hand put all the games away, and nonsense sections we could scrabble. And bring up our rules of scrabble. We can be generous with our presence when someone's in pain, to be able to sit with it, do it without having to run away or try to shut them down. And also, our presence can help validate. Like, there are a lot of days where I'm like, how did I get this? Did I really not think this was going to happen? Did I really believe this was not possible? Like, it's your fault. You should have seen this coming. And maybe that's true, but also feeling people's presence in conversations on social media, say that none of us knew what was going to happen. And to feel a little bit validated that, yeah, that's more natural. And I think we can share our wisdom. When I talked a while back about the fact that those of us who have experienced trauma in our lives kind of step up, we have herd immunity, that we can get immunity, we can try to spread to the herd, how other people become resilient and face trauma. And one of the great resilience vectors is generosity. It's each of us seeing in ourselves the capacity to handle the future, and to see that we have extra resources. So for some it might be money, for some it might be wisdom, for some it might be presence, for some it might be a smile, for some it might be advice, or posting a recipe, or a game, or here's one craft you can do with your kids. But in this time of enforced physical distancing, generosity is a really powerful lever of community, and can bring souls together, and can bring those souls together in a discover mode as opposed to a defend mode. So again, I thank all of you who have been generous. I will keep the URL at that jar, which is planyourself.com/gift, GIFT, all lowercase. And I'll just mention again that guided relaxation exercises for the homebound and stressed out. You can find that at planyourself.com/unstress, and that's pay what you can, including zero. So don't let if you want it, but you're like, no, I can't pay zero for it. Remember, this is a chance for me to be generous, and it is a blessing to give me the opportunity to share something of value without an expectation of return. And finally, the audiobook of Use the Weight to Lose the Weight, which Josh and I wrote together, Josh Lajani, is now available on audio with Josh reading it, and you can find that at sicktofit.com/badass. And now, if you are using PayPal, there's a glitch. You will not get your download right away. And I'm checking email every 3 hours or so, and so you won't have to wait long unless it's my nighttime. But as soon as I get to email and I see that you made a PayPal purchase of $9.95 for the book, I will go into the shopping cart and manually fix it so that it will then be on its way to you. So thanks again for listening. I'll be back again tomorrow with another episode. And as always, be well, my friends. All right, time for thanks. Thanks to Will Ridenauer for allowing me to use his beautiful song Sabali Dawn, The Dance of Peace. You can find more of Will's music at his website, willridenauer.com. And of course, thanks to all of you Plant Yourself podcast patrons. Kim Harrison, Lynn McClellan, Anthony Disson, Brittany Porter, Dominic Maurer, Barbara Whitney, Tammy Black, Amy Good, Amanda Hatherley, Mary Jane Wheeler, Ellen Kennelly, Mr. Cobb, Rachel Behrens, Christine Nielsen, Tina Sharp, Tina Ahern, Jennifer Volkanovsky, David Bizek, The Mysterious, Michelle X. Elspeth Feldman, Leah Stoller, Alan Christensen, Colleen Peck, Michelle Landry, Josina, Sarah Durkis, Rhymes with Circus, Kelly Cameron, Wayne Pedersen, Janet Selby. Hi, Janet. Claire Adams, Tom Franzek, Jeanette Benham, Gil Lassert, David Donahue, Blair Cyber, Dorona Vizov, Gio and Carolyn Argentati, Jody Friesen, Christina, Ruth Ann Funderburg, Misha Rosen, Michael Warbeck, the equally mysterious Tracy Z, Aviva Lael, Alicia Lemus, Rebecca Hughes, Val Linneman, Rhymes with Cinnamon, Nick Harper, Martha Bergner, Susan Ahmad, Nolly Levine, the inscrutable Harry R., Susan Laverty, the Panda Vegan, Craig Kovic, Adam Scharf, Karen Burry, Heather Morgan, Kelly Machia, Deanne Norton, Bonnie Lynch at Plant Happy Oregon, Sabina Kurtzels, Nigel Davies, Marion Blum, Teresa Coble, Julian Watkins, Breed O'Connell, Shannon Hirschman, Linda Ayat, Home Hedegaard, Izatu Zinwa, Connie Hainline, Aaron Greer, Alicia Davis, Heather O'Connor, Carolyn Jensen, Sherry Orlikoski of Plant Powered for Health, Karen Smith, Scott Morani, Karen Jo Crabtree, Tanya Lewis, Kirby Burton, Teresa Carell, Kevin McCauley, Elizabeth Rothschild, Ann Jesse, Cheryl Dwyer, Jenny Hazelton, Valerie Peltier, Peter W. Evans, Colleen Harrison, Justin Divich, Joshua Summermeyer, Dennis Bird, Darby Kelly, Lori Fanny, Linnea Lundquist, Valerie Hummel, Emily Iaconelli, Levy Wallach, Rosamund McAtee, Dan Picorni, Stephen Lehman, Patty DiMartino, Mike and Donna Kartz, Deanne Bishop, Bill Brielf, Gunter Schmidt, Marjorie Lewis, Kelly Molden, Trish Adams, Ian Kramer, Nancy Sheldon, Lindsay Bayshore, Gunmarie Hagan, Tracy Gullidge, Laura Heaton, Meg from Mama Says, Rochelle Kennedy, Diana Goldman, Stacey Stokes, Ben Savage, Michael Kay, Holly Butler, David Hughes, Connie Rogers, Claire England, Sally Robertson, Paran Ganshi, Amy Daly, Brian Tourville, Mark Jeffrey Johnson, Josie Dempsey, Karen Schmidt, Pamela Hayden, Emily Perryman, Olga Sidorowska, Allison Corbett, Richard Stone, Lauren Vaught of Edible Musings, Aaron Hasty, Sean Owen, Sagar Nayak, Erica Piedra, Danielle Roberts, and Michael Lushton for your generous support of the podcast. That's it for now. As always, be well, my friends.